Now we got sound? Cool. Hey, everybody. It's the PC Gamer Show. I'm James Davenport, not Tom Marks. Tom Marks, I bested him in one-on-one combat, and now I'm wearing his skin. He doesn't work here anymore. No, Tom is up in Canada playing a game, and he assigned me the duties of hosting. God help us. So we'll see how it goes. That's all right. We've got some cool stuff planned, and I've got some good company here. I've got our global editor-in-chief, Tim Clark. How you doing, Tim?
Not too bad, thanks, James.
Yeah. And here we've got Chris Livingston on the big screen. How you doing, Chris?
My head is huge. Hello.
Different monitor this time. It's pretty massive. So today I think we're going to talk about the Bioshock Remastered Edition. What do they call it? The collection. Is out this week, tomorrow on PC. So I figured we'd kind of each make a case for our favorite Bioshock, and if they're all the same, that's going to be a short debate. Then we can at least talk about the legacy a bit. Then we'll move on to some Hearthstone politics. We're not big card game people, but here Tim is, and he can maybe translate for us laymen about what's going on at the heart of Hearthstone. Hearthstone? Are you a Hearth or a Hearth talker?
Hearth.
Hearth. Is that the right way?
I mean, I imagine how the Queen says it, so yeah.
Okay, good. And then we'll move on to discuss the Steam reviews policy and the changes that came recently. And we reached out to some developers and asked them what they thought about it, and we'll discuss maybe what we think Steam should do with that controversy. And then we'll move on to Twitch chat Q&A. I think we're going to do an extended one this week because I'm not a host. Well, I guess I am technically a host right now. I am right now. But we like talking to you guys, and we figure if we're gonna be lazy in Tom's absence, we'll just make you guys do all the heavy lifting for us. So thank you for that.
I feel like having Chris on the giant screen is like when they commune with the secret Sith Lord in the new Star Wars.
What's his name?
I don't know.
I forgot.
The CG guy.
Yeah, it's Andy.
The Gollum looking guy?
Yeah, Andy Serkis. Oh God, what's his name? Chat, tell us. It's gonna bother us.
I don't mean you look like him. I just mean the experience feels like.
Oh no, much more handsome.
I kind of feel like a Dr. Breen situation, City 17.
You kind of have the same facial hair.
He did have a white beard, but he had actual hair.
That's true.
I wish I could.
Unlike myself.
Everyone's got beards except me now.
Yeah, man, you got to get on track with the times. But first up, let's talk about what we've been playing. And why don't we start with Dr. Breen over there? Give us the rundown. What you've been playing, Chris?
A few things. I think probably most notable, perhaps, is Planet Coaster, which is in alpha and headed for a release, I believe, in November. There's a lot not there yet. Mm-hmm. There's no real financial stuff. There's not a campaign mode. And there's things like water rides, which aren't there. But what is there, I'm enjoying a lot. It gives me a real kind of city skylines vibe, in that it's really just pleasant to look at. Everything looks lovely. It's like a complete, there's no stress. It's just enjoyment of playing. There's a little challenge mode where you have a limited amount of money to build your park, but there's also a sandbox mode where you can just build what you want. But both of them are just kind of relaxing and enjoyable. It looks really good. It's fun. There's no tutorials yet, so kind of building custom coasters is a little tricky, but my friend and I still managed to put one together in 10 or 15 minutes, and it all what's there to play right now is working really well. So I'm actually pretty I'm looking forward to seeing how the whole thing shakes out.
Chris, have you also played did the rival Atari one come out?
Yeah, Tycoon 4? Or what was it called? World.
Tycoon, right?
Yeah,
Tycoon World.
Tycoon World, yeah.
It's in early access. I did play it briefly. It felt more like with Planet Coaster, not everything is there yet, but what's there all is very kind of smooth and polished. Roller Coaster Tycoon World felt much different. It felt like there's a little bit of everything there and nothing is quite finished. So I can't say I really enjoyed it too much. I also didn't give it as much time as I have with Planet Coaster. It will be interesting to see how these two do. I think when they both come out, it'll be interesting to compare them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if what I've played of Planet Coaster is any indication, it's sort of amazing, except for, I don't know, what's your thoughts on the economy and the systems in place at right now? I know you did this really funny piece for us, sort of about gaming the systems that are already in place, like starting a park that was only based on what? Like without rides? Is that
I wanted to see if people would come to the park and spend money if there were no rides, and see if I could turn a profit with just, because there's like burger stands and drink stands and hat shops. I failed completely to do that. It didn't really work. I did get a lot of guests, but they would just kind of come in and buy a soda and leave. And then I wound up getting frustrated with them and tried to trap them in the park until they spent all their money. Because you can see how much money each visitor brings in with them and see how much they've spent. And they were spending almost nothing because there was nothing to really do except buy a hot dog and use the bathroom. So there's not a real, there is money in there, but the financial system of the park isn't online yet. There's like, I would assume there'll be probably an advertising budget and things like that to kind of balance, and loans and things like that. That stuff isn't really in there yet. Yeah. I'm curious to see what they'll do. I'm not really necessarily looking for some kind of big challenge when it comes to the money. I don't think it's probably that much fun to be constantly struggling.
Yeah.
That's not really why I play those games. But it would be nice if there's something interesting from the financial end of things, some interesting ways to manage your park. So we'll see what they put in.
Cool. Anything else?
Anything else I've been playing?
Yeah.
I tried out Project High Rise, another sort of simulation building game. I haven't put in too much time with it. Basically, it's a 2D game, and you build a big skyscraper, and you have tenants like offices and apartments, and you have a little maintenance staff, and you can put in coffee shops or restaurants.
Presumably not based on the J.G. Ballard book that they recently made a film about.
No, probably not.
No,
that'd be good though.
I would play that game. Oh my god,
I would play that game.
Dystopian tower sim.
Hell yeah!
Set in the 1970s.
Although I fell asleep in the middle of that, and I don't know what happened. So.
I don't think you would have missed much narratively.
No,
it's not really that.
It's kind of a plotter. Yeah.
No, there's nothing quite as terrible happens. People, when they get unhappy, they just move out. They don't start killing each other.
Eating dogs. Do they eat dogs?
Yeah.
I made that
Is there an eating dog system? I lose track.
I feel like they eat a dog.
Yeah.
In the opening credits, it's implied. Well, you see him petting a dog, and then you see him cooking part of a dog.
Yeah.
Bourgeois. Tell you what. Gosh.
I enjoyed Project High Rise. What I've played, it feels a little like I don't know. I guess a little. There's not a whole lot of management. It seems like any problem you run into can be solved by building more stuff. So I haven't really run into any kind of real management or design decisions. It's more like, well, there's a problem, just build something else to solve it. So
Capitalism, that's how it works.
That's true.
Cool. All right, well, Tim, what about you? What you been up to?
Just a year after the fact that I've been playing The Witcher 3. I can't remember if I said this.
What the hell, man?
I can't remember if I said this last time I was on. But anyway, I'm still playing The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bounced off it a couple of times last year because
it's big.
It's big, and I was playing other stuff at the time, and I think you need there's a 4-hour kind of bedding in period after which once you're in, you're really locked in. So I've played I think on Steam it says I've played 175 hours, but I can't tell if it's collating that with my my girlfriend's time because we share libraries somehow. But anyway, if not, it's 175 hours I've played. And I've just finished the Hearts of Stone expansion. So I finished the main game, and then I've just got Blood and Wine left to do.
What'd you think Hearts of Stone?
I really liked it, As DLC goes, it felt like when you normally finish those games, the world has essentially been sort of strip-mined of all the stuff to do. And it really felt like it injected life back into the Northern Kingdoms. And the story itself was an interesting, self-contained arc. It didn't a couple of times it didn't go in places I expected it to. There's the whole kind of the stuff with the guy's wife. Do I have to worry about spoilers? Like a year?
Oh, no.
So you're trying to do these impossible wishes for like a kind of genie from a bottle type guy, and the person you're doing it on behalf of is this kind of like a dude who initially seems like this awful barbarian type. I won't explain because probably everyone's played it except me. But anyway, I found the sequence with his wife, who's like a haunted spirit, and there's a lot of flashbacky stuff. There's some really like innovative, bespoke things, like all the kind of the stuff at the wedding was really great.
Oh, so much fun.
Yeah, really good fun. So I loved that. I think the reason I've got gripped by it quite so much is I read a piece Wes wrote a while ago about how Witcher 3 has the best armor of any fantasy game.
Great armor.
Which is debatable if you're a Dark Souls fan, but it's certainly got good armor.
It's got pretty good armor.
It's got pretty good armor. And like you can, like the way you can evolve the armor through like standard to like superior to then like grandmaster and whatever is like so relevant to my interests. I love like incremental improvements in gear that are reflected in appearance. So I went like schlepping all over the map to collect the armor, not just for like one set, but for all the Witcher sets.
Oh, damn, you got all of them.
Well, no, I'm working on a couple of the Grandmaster ones, but I've almost got all of them. And then, see, this is the thing that's sad. It's like, I thought I'd messed up in the main quest my desired romantic outcome. So because I'm such an idiot, then installed the like console command thing to like revert one of the changes, even though it only actually plays out in one of those like hand-drawn cutscenes. It's actually pretty irrelevant. Like, I didn't realise that
it's
at the
a real
time
footnote
because I'd been skipping those. So yeah, I tried to have my cake and eat it. And, that blew up in my face pretty badly.
It's all right. It's all right. I really back to like the DLC, and I think just The Witcher in general. The best parts of The Witcher to me are the stories that don't have to do with like saving the world. And I don't know like how you feel about that, because coming off the main quest of The Witcher, I was like, that was fun, and you know, it sort of revolves around your relationship with Ciri and some of the main characters, right? Because the whole campaign is sort of about finding these people, and then finding Ciri, and then you fight the bad guy.
The thing I felt about that is that it was always nice. It was always nice to leave the saving the world stuff and then just go and fight a cockatrice or something, and do a bit of like busy work. Yeah. But then when the main campaign was so kind of well wrought and coloured that when it was over, I felt this weird sense of loss that those characters then had no more ways to interact with them. Like you didn't really get to do anything more with Yennefer or Ciri once you'd had the end sequence and whatever. So and that was I think one of the reasons I wanted to revert the romantic decision, because I hated this idea of Geralt kind of alone in the world again. And I found even with the DLCs a little bit I had this sort of sense of melancholy of like you've saved the world and everything else feels smaller, and I kind of felt like I was saying this to Evan, like Geralt almost feels like a kind of a retired pro footballer, just kind of going through the motions a little bit. Maybe there's a sadness to DLC.
Well, I think you're going to really like Blood and Wine in that case if you view Witcher as sort of like a tired adventurer, because it sort of deals with those themes. And
I just got to Toussaint, which is the new region for Blood and Wine, and dude, you can like feel the sun beating on your forehead. Like, I mean, that was one of the reasons I got into it late, because I wanted to upgrade my computer, which we did recently. So now I'm running it like on all like crazy settings. It looks nuts.
Still, not many games out there that look that good.
Like there are just rabbits just scamper. Like I got to Toussaint and there were all these sheep, and you're like, man, the sheep physics are outstanding.
Sheep physics are outstanding. Put that on the back of the box. Yeah. Well, hell, I'm glad you're playing it now, and you're part of our, our fan club here at PC Gamer. But let me know what you think of Blood and Wine when you're done, because I thought it was excellent, beautiful, especially that last scene. Can't wait to hear. Anything else on your?
Still playing Elder Scrolls Legends. I hit Legend for the second month in a row, but this month I used my own deck. I'm normally like a Seamus Net deck, and I built this monk deck, which is green and yellow. It revolves around. Did you play like the Elder Scrolls games?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember like the cat people, the Khajiit?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So those guys have this effect called Pilfer, quite a few of them, where they get buffed the more they hit you in the face. So it's like a crazy aggressive deck that it either wins really big, really fast, or you lose pretty badly. And I took that to Legend.
Walking on the edge with a deck. Yeah, well, it sounds fun.
Yeah.
Cards, I guess. Yeah. What do you think about cards, Chris? You think it?
Don't touch them.
Yeah, I'm not into them either. Yeah. But guess what? We're going to talk about them today. We'll get to that.
Great.
So prepare yourself.
We don't have to. We'll talk about something else.
We'll talk. I think it's important.
From now until then to think of another topic.
I'm actually kind of curious. I have some questions about Hearthstone. So it's important. It's important. But right now,
keep it brief.
I'll say what I'm playing, which is still kind of depressing. I think people are concerned for my health because I'm still playing WoW, and that's just a big. Anytime I bring it up in chat, I kind of get sideways glances.
Are you playing with anyone else on the team? You still playing with Steven?
That's the thing is, I played almost all of Legion's regions and its dungeons without anyone I know, and I think that's the wrong way to do it.
So you don't do raiding and stuff?
I mean, I just got to the point where I can raid. I just finished. I hit the level cap, and I'm finishing up the regions, and I'm getting all tricked out with my whatever the hell they call it, your special weapon, and I'm at the point where I can now raid, and I'm losing steam, mostly because I think I screwed the pooch and didn't play with people I knew, just because I wanted something sort of mindless to play. I think I'm just like in this rut where I just don't want to play anything super engaging right now. So I play WoW and just kind of put on some podcasts and zone out, and it's been nice. It's been nice. It's kind of a way to reset. But now that I'm reaching what people consider the meat of the game, I'm just like, oh, I have to talk to people. I have to like meet up with folks and like actually think about which buttons I'm pressing. And I guess I'll do it, but it makes me realize that the actual the act of playing WoW is not fun, and it makes me long for something like like Destiny, where even though you are doing the same things over and over, it feels good. You're playing a very good shooter, and so I mean, to everyone who loves it, they're gonna love it. And the long-term WoW players are probably really happy with it. But as someone who's kind of bounced off and on, I'm still feeling alienated.
What are you looking forward to then as the next game you think you might get into in a big way?
Gosh, I thought it would be Recore, which is the next game. I'll talk about that briefly. It's tough. There's a lot coming out, but I'm really looking forward to Battlefield 1. I think we talked about it last week, Evan and I, for a bit, and it just feels like everything's tighter and closer and clumsier in a good way. Weapons aren't super precise. You're not getting sniped across the map. There's a goddamn horse, and it just feels it's maybe pulling at my heartstrings a bit and taking me back to.
Can the horse get shot?
Oh yeah, it has its own health pool.
I don't want to see that.
Yeah, it's tough, but that's war.
Can you get
That's
blown
fiction
up into
war.
horse chunks?
Can you imagine being the person at EA who's like, it's your first job on a game, and it's like, all right, here's the list. We're gonna hand out duties. You're on horse chunk duty, Greg. Showing up with a bright, shining young
your
face.
LinkedIn page.
For reference, we've got about 10 hours of videos of horses being killed for you to watch.
Yeah, I am like the premium horse death guy working in North America right now. If you need a horse blown up, you're a fool to look anywhere.
We have a fully rendered accurate horse death simulation. Yeah. But that looks cool, I guess. We'll see. There's a lot coming out. Titanfall 2 looks cool.
I'm actually looking to Titanfall 2 for the single player.
Same.
No joke.
No.
Like I'm not like a big competitive shooter guy anyway. Played Overwatch for a while, but I loved the old Infinity Ward Call of Duties.
Yes.
So if they've managed to capture any of that, I think it'd be cool. I don't even care if it's short. Like I don't care if it's like a 6 hour.
I don't either. What really grabbed me, I can't remember who said it, and but in some interview or talking with someone, one of the developers mentioned they were inspired a lot by, I think the newest Wolfenstein game.
Yeah, and Doom as well, I think.
And Doom. So, and they've talked about how there's a lot of puzzle solving and downtime, which is something I'm really interested in.
Dude, this drink tastes like it was inspired by Doom.
It's
like, do you know if you like leave the dishwater for 2 days and then were to drink it, this is what it would taste like. This is what health tastes like.
That's what health. Well, you know what? It's tonight. You're going to be sitting there playing The Witcher and thinking, "Wow, I feel a little bit better than I otherwise might have."
I need to with The Witcher. I've got to like wean myself off the console commands because I found out you can just like now summon up any of the remaining armor and swords that I don't have. It's kind of killing it for me because I liked schlepping around the map. Like you were saying with the podcast, I was looking for diagrams.
That brings up an interesting question to me is when it comes to console commands. And Chris, you play a lot of these, Bethesda's games where console commands are like sort of a staple in long-term enjoyment of them, or at least for me, just like fucking around with physics and all that jazz, and kind of looking into the games, innards and poking around. Do you feel at any point console commands suck the life out of the game or the illusion of the game away from you and sort of make it like lay it bare? And
I mean, I've got like 300,000 gold now because I couldn't afford to do all the enchanting I wanted.
how do you feel about that?
Like bad, I guess. Like because it means like when I'm looting stuff, I'm kind of like, well, what am I going to be selling this Temerian ale for? Like, I don't need the money.
They can be dangerous, like with things like Skyrim or Fallout 4. Like I know too much of like I'll be somewhere and I'm like, oh, I need this particular resource for something. I'm like, well, I know how to add items to myself and I know how to look at something and find out what the ID code is, and so I know how to give myself 100 of them, and I know how to kill every enemy within a large radius of me, so I'll be running around. There's some mirelurks or giant bugs, which I hate. I hate fighting them in the game. They're so boring. It's like enough of the giant bugs. They're so dull. So I'll just open the console, kill all, everything dies, and it can. I wouldn't say it really spoils the game, but I think it just gives you so much freedom to do to just get away with whatever you want.
God's up there on his scepter throne going, I've got to stop using the kill all.
We gotta chill.
It's just too easy. It's just really taking the joy out of creation for me.
Or even if I'm in a big fight and I'm about to die and it's like, well, do I really want to restart and fight this again, or do I really want to quickly turn on God mode and make myself invulnerable? And then, so it can be, sometimes it's nice to have a little shortcut every now and then, but when you know so much, like if I started a new game over, it probably wouldn't be as satisfying because I have this.
I felt fine on the other hand. I felt fine with like save scumming in XCOM. Like I just wasn't willing to lose some of those characters. So I would, like, save all the time.
That's so much more consequential, and you're not like, I guess, cracking the game wide open and like, not necessarily. You're just like time slipping a bit. You're just so, I don't know. That's a whole nother debate. But anyway, I was just curious. My last game I played, I think the review's going up today. I finished it. And should be up this evening, is Recore. Do you guys know Recore? What this is?
I don't know much about it, actually. It's one of those games where like I know who makes it. I know the name, but it never sticks in my brain what it actually is.
It's on paper it sounds like a game made for me, because my favorite game of all time, or at least one of them, is Metroid Prime. And Metroid Prime is sort of defined by its exploration and combat. And its combat it is sort of a riff on shooting mechanics, in that you, instead of having to manually aim, you lock onto an enemy, and then at that point you can circle strafe around them without losing your aim. The challenge comes from what they throw at you and sort of using your dodge and jump to avoid attacks. It's sort of like a very contained fighting sequence. And Recore does the exact same thing.
I told you my Metroid Prime Christmas story, didn't I?
Wait, what? Here we go. Wait, one sec, guys.
Have we got time for it? Do you want it or
Let's
not?
do it. No, hey, come on. Hey. Tom's away. Daddy's not here.
So I was playing Metroid Prime, which I've been given for Christmas at my folks' house where I lived.
Yeah.
And it got right up into Christmas lunch, and I was like a good chunk through the game, and there was like a boss encounter that was really hard. You had to save in certain rooms, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'd lost to this boss a load of times. Or I'd got to the boss and I hadn't saved, so I knew I had to beat him. Anyway, so I get him down to like a sliver of health. It's really hard. And I managed to like nail him with just like, and my mum's going crazy, going like, you should be eating Christmas dinner with your family, stop playing this video game. So but I managed to kill the boss, like pick up the stuff.
Good job.
I'm on like one shot amount of health, right? Like disaster. I step out of like the airlock doors back into the corridor, and this tiny bat flies down and just hits me in the face, and so I don't make it to the save room and die. And then I sit through all of Christmas lunch just like seething with my face like red, like just no one wanting to speak to me not wanting to speak to anyone else. That's because of the magic of Nintendo game design.
You'll never forget that either, will you?
No, I remember it vividly now. I've forgotten much more important moments in my life than that day.
Well, thank you for sharing. Recore, and I say it's like Metroid Prime because it's the studio's Armature, who is made up of old retro studios people who worked on Metroid Prime. And you see a lot of the sort of DNA of Metroid Prime in Recore. You play as this adventurer on this desert planet. And you're looking for like the last traces of humanity because they were supposed to be here, and you woke up from your cryogenic sleep and they're not. You have some robot companions that have simple commands. You can ask them to attack enemies, and they'll stun them. You can use some of them to traverse certain environments. There's like these, basically the spider ball from Metroid Prime, except automated. You press a button and it'll like ching 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 take you along this path. So it has a lot of platforming and that familiar combat. The problem is it's got this huge open world, like literally a desert. And when I say literally desert, I mean there's nothing there. So you have to traverse these massive environments.
But Metroid was always pretty tight in terms of
It was
design.
tight. It was very tight. Yeah. So you'd step into a room and it'd be like, okay, this is a puzzle room.
Yeah.
Or you'd step into a room and it'd be like, okay, this is a combat arena. That's fine. It's okay if a video game feels super video gamey, if it's like designed with purpose and. Here, it seems that they had this open world. They wanted to, I don't want to assume, but I have to assume they wanted to put a bunch of stuff in there to do, but ran out of time or, too late on in development realized that they were going down the wrong design route for, the high up structure of this game, because there's just nothing to do there except combat, which is fun, but when you do it, over and over across the same environments. Enemies reload every time you enter an environment. And there are some like instances where the platforming and the combat is like focused and tight, but those are locked away in these dungeons around the world that have like 5 to 6 keys you need to find in the desert in order to unlock. So you have to run around the desert finding these keys. There's no like vehicle, or the only way you can fast travel is by dashing, which is just you dash over and over and over and over. So anyway, there's just all these weird progression gates, and it gets especially bad.
Just wanted to pad it out?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not even to the worst part. But I get to what I think is the final boss, like 6 or so hours in. I'm at like the big weird obelisk with red spikes in the distance that every video game has, and I beat the boss. I'm like, okay, cool. And there's one final objective that is essentially go upstairs and like press a button. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do the thing. I'm here. And then you go upstairs and you have to cross this small gauntlet of platforming challenges and do a combat thing. And then you get to a door that you think is gonna be the final door. And it's like, oh yeah, by the way, hey, you need 5 more prismatic orbs to get through, which are sort of collectibles you got throughout the game. And okay, I'm like, all right, that's annoying. I'm kind of coasting through on this narrative high. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm there. I go back into the open world, and you got to trek across the desert and find keys to unlock dungeons just to get to the good parts of the game. So I do that 5 more times. I go back, and it's like I do another level of platforming combat. And it asked me to do this 5 times in a row before I can get to the final like room.
Get fucked.
Yeah. It took me like 6 hours, maybe. No, not even 6 hours. Like 5 hours or so to get to the final boss, and then from that point to the end, that going upstairs took another 5 or 6 hours. So it's a case of severe, padding out, and it seems like it just feels so obvious that they didn't have time, because I know those guys can make good games. But
you know what you need is some console commands. Add prismatic orb times 10.
I don't think that the problem is it's a Windows Universal app, so I don't think there's It runs well, looks nice, but it's just it's a huge bummer because the platforming and the combat feel good. They're just kind of locked away and padded out behind so many unnecessary design problems. So sad about that.
I don't think that's the sort of game you want to grind in, right?
No. When I'm playing a platformer or a shooter like that, or an action game, you kind of want cool designed experiences, not like dashing across an open world nonstop. Oh, I think that's is that a buried robot key that I need? No. Okay, I'm gonna go to this featureless end of the desert. Is that no? Fuck. And hours of that. So
do you have a map? Or you just like?
There's a map, but it's. I included a screenshot in the review. It's just like a big. Just a big blotch of space. It's like cool.
Sound like it's for me.
Yeah, it's a bummer, but whatever. There's plenty of games out there. Don't play that. Anyway, let's move on to let's talk about Bioshock. You guys like Bioshock?
Yeah.
Bioshock games. There's a remastered collection coming out tomorrow. I actually, forgive me, PC audience, I played it yesterday on PS4. So, I don't know. In this collection, Bioshock 1 is remastered, which means I think it just has higher resolution textures and some, newer effects, that 10 or however many years have, provided.
So who's done the remastering? Because isn't
Good question. I actually don't know.
Because the team aren't.
No, there's no more.
Yeah.
The Irrational Studios we used to know, we no longer do. Hey, Soviet, how you doing? But it includes like a director's commentary with Ken Levine and some cool stuff. Bioshock 2's in there. I don't know what kind of remastering that got, but I know that the I'm forgetting the name of the really good side DLC that came with that. Oh my God, Minerva's Den, which features some of the people who went on to make Gone Home and for Fulbright Industries or Fulbright Games. So that's a really good standalone piece. Comes with it, and then Bioshock Infinite with all the DLC, which I can't remember the name of, like this something below that returns to Rapture after the fact, and it's a really cool kind of cap on the series. It's all there. It's really cool. But I want to know from both of you, what's your favorite Bioshock and why?
I mean, I think the obvious answer is 1.
Yeah, that's going to be everyone.
I think it's the correct answer.
Yeah, that's the only answer, I think.
Yeah. 2 was... I didn't play enough of 2 to really have a strong opinion about it, but I played a bit of 2 and it felt like a... And I think this is an unfair opinion because people like you, who I think you're about to say, you spent more time with it and enjoyed it. To me, early on, it felt like a retread. I didn't like the idea of being chased around by that sort of T2 style Lady Big Daddy or whatever she was. I just didn't dig it.
Yeah, fair enough.
And 1 felt like such a kind of bottled lightning piece of narrative and place that 2, like what 3 did with Columbia and having like a new setting was kind of what I wanted from 2, but then 3, I don't know, 3's a strange game. I remember really enjoying it at the time and finding it really interesting and not entirely agreeing with the sense that it was some huge racist statement which seemed to percolate around at the time.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure some of the history stuff was problematic or whatever.
Oh, for sure.
But that sounds really glib me saying like that. Anyway, I guess I was too dumb to really engage with that.
Sure.
That sort of thing. But 3 just doesn't stick in my memory at all now, weirdly. I don't really have that much fondness for it.
I remember colors.
Yeah, I remember a lot of...
A bird.
I remember it looked pretty.
There's a bird there.
But yeah, with 1, it was, for me anyway, I hadn't played a lot of those kind of... I wasn't a System Shock guy, so I hadn't played a lot of the kind of emergent stuff where you could combine abilities to... I mean, the mixing the plasmids with the conventional weapons was huge for me as a guy who loved shooters and just hadn't experienced anything like that. The idea that you could just tailor a play style to you'd be luring the daddy into where he is, or you'll be creating traps with plasmids and stuff, or setting up kind of machine gun takeovers. It was just, I don't know. It was just. I sound like a complete idiot now. It's really good, wasn't it?
No,
Bioshock was really good.
I just want to know. That's your why.
Yeah.
What about you, Chris?
Yeah, one definitely for me. I mean, I think it's just hard to beat the first great thing in a series because it's so interesting and novel and different that even a really good sequel, it's not going to be this completely unfamiliar experience. But I thought, in addition to everything, it was a great horror game too. There were some really terrifying moments and set pieces in that game that I don't remember feeling particularly scared in part 2. I know the combat I think was much more interesting, but you just can't really beat that first visit, I think, to Rapture. And I didn't think Infinite was terrible, but it just, I don't know. I think it was this idea of let's show this great society before the fall, and ultimately it's just not that interesting, I guess, to see, okay, everything seems fine here for the most part, and I guess it attempted some horror with some of the enemies, but I don't remember feeling scared at all in Infinite. But yeah, definitely number 1 for me.
You referenced, James, Doom and Wolfenstein when we were talking about Titanfall earlier. Those sorts of first-person games that are very manicured experiences where you enter a new area and there's something set up for you to see, or it will grab attention, or it will grab control off you to show you something, whether it's something swimming past outside. Like they're really like few and far between in like first-person games now, right? Wouldn't you say? Or I don't feel like a lot of those sorts of games are being made anymore. Maybe because they're really hard to do.
I think it doesn't happen as often because I think the amount of like just artistry and art, like just straight up art that needs to be generated to make that kind of experience it's hard to conceive of unless you're making it. But having played last night, I played 2-3 hours of the original Bioshock with my housemates watching. And some of them had never seen the game before, and they were just struck by the amount of, like, just statues and like that you'll never see again, or just like a poster, or and how this light is drawing attention to this thing, and you enter this room like you say, and everything's framed up like you'd see it in an establishing shot for a film or something like that.
I was talking to a guy who works for Remedy who did like obviously like Quantum Break recently and then Max Payne and stuff in the past, and we were talking about like delays to games and why like some projects run long and stuff, and he was saying like people, and he wasn't even saying it like as a criticism, it was more as an explanation. He was just saying people just don't understand the amount of like man hours and like effort it requires to fill a world with high definition assets. Like and if you're not like copy and pasting brutally, which gets kind of noticed pretty fast, but to fill a game, whether it's like a Deus Ex, or you look at like going back to like we were talking about The Witcher already, like just even like things like everywhere you go, there's like here's a flock of birds and here's some rabbits scampering through the grass, and like every house is full of stuff, which like we were joking about the horse chunk guy, right? Someone has had to be like the bookshelf guy and the candlestick guy or girl, and like it's mind-boggling that these worlds even get built. And
absolutely.
I can't think of almost anyone making a game like Bioshock now. Like who's making those sorts of games? You get like smaller, I suppose. Something like Tacoma might be that sort of experience, but it's clearly going to be much more pared down and lean.
Well, I think maybe one of the last games to sort of, I don't want to say like be the nail in the coffin for that kind of game at that size or that scale. It was huge and was under development for I forget how many years, like so long, and it was like. We don't think Infinite is necessarily the best example of a Bioshock game, but we can all appreciate just the amount of art and effort put into it as a game. But it just kind of came and went still, and we talk about it today. But it sold and it has sold over the years, I'm sure a fair amount. But for how long it took to create and the man hours that went into that, it probably was not worth it.
Even just talking about it makes me want to revisit it.
Yeah.
So maybe the collection is coming along at a good time.
Yeah. No, and it feels good. I think that's back to the talk about the three, and which is our favorite. I think that's the thing I appreciate.
Don't you literally think 2's the best? Are you willing to?
I'm sort of being just contrarian for the sake of it, but I also think I appreciate Bioshock 1 for like what we were talking about, its artistry, and when it came out, it felt totally unique, or at least like separate from what we'd been seeing for a while. I think that was like after several Call of Duties that started coming out, and there was just kind of a lot of muddy gray games out there, and I remember playing that. How old was I? God, probably like 18 or something like that, and just being like, "Whoa, there's some heavy stuff, some good themes in here," and being really blown away by that. Like, oh, games can do, more than just be pretty to look at. And
you have your copy of The Fountainhead tucked in your back pocket.
Yeah, it's funny because around that time I actually had a copy of The Fountainhead and was trying to read it. It was also just really boring. I couldn't get into it. But I think from artistic standpoint, Bioshock 1 is amazing and will always be, except for that final boss is really dumb.
What was the final boss? I can't remember.
It was like the most typical video game, like, oh, he's got a power and you blast him and he jumps back in the thing and he comes out with another power, and he was a giant orange guy or something. Giant
nude orange man with muscles. Remember? Yeah, good. Just don't try to remember. I'm going to play Bioshock 1 until that point because I don't ever want to play it again.
I remember the ending that I got anyway, like popping back up to the surface, but I don't remember the boss.
It was more about the journey than the destination of the orange naked man. But Bioshock 2, or playing Bioshock 1 last night, I was like, running into issues with the combat, and I remember it feeling novel when I played it first. Like, oh my god, they're standing in water and you can electrocute them. Wow, that's fucking incredible. Like, that makes sense, right? It's a thing you can do naturally. It makes sense, and it still feels cool. But it's really funny because you can tell.
You've electrocuted a lot of people in water in real life.
Yes. But it's just where it starts to feel dated is where, and this is such a nitpicky thing, but when you can't dual wield those, like a gun and what are they called? God, why can't I remember? Plasmid. So the combat starts to feel kind of stilted. Like you'll jab a guy and then you gotta like want to bring your shotgun out or something. And it's like, here's the animation. Tukunk. Oh, you wanna use your telekinesis? Well, let's bring that hand up. Oh, all right, we ready? Whew, all right, we got it. You wanna bring it? Yeah. So it's just kind of this weird like back and forth that sort of.
I guess they wanted to force the decision making because I'm sure they could have. I don't think like they were technically limited by.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what that was about.
Wanted you to keep making choices, I suppose.
Maybe, I don't know, but it felt kind of limiting. And Bioshock 2 just like kind of went crazy with the combat and said, all right, you can dual wield anything. You're a big kind of chunky big daddy, so you can take a lot more damage. You can make traps out of all of these. There's a ton more plasmids. There's some crazy weapons, some weird big daddy weapons, a couple more environmental tools you can use, streamlined hacking and all that stuff, and a lot of the like little sister challenges where you'd like guard a little sister while they harvest at them were just like a lot better in terms of the systems, the gameplay, the shooting, and I was like, okay, this feels right, and I still like being here. The story, I don't actually remember much about it, but I remember it just being nice to be in Rapture because I like that setting a lot. I still do. And it felt even better because I was enjoying the combat instead of it feeling clumsy and sort of stilted. So that's why I like Bioshock 2, I think, the most.
Could you dual wield in 3?
Yes.
I think you could. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and three in terms of systems felt about the same to me. So it didn't feel like it built or changed too much, other than like I got crows now, and that was cool. Some really cool set pieces, some great music, but also just it got so convoluted. I just thought it was too silly to take seriously in the end.
It felt really repetitive in ways the other two didn't too.
Yeah.
It just seemed like, oh, I come through these double doors and here's this huge area. Oh, there's some tears. There's a giant spot. Clearly I'm going to have a huge fight here because there's rails. And I don't know, it just felt like, oh, this is the part of the game that I play every 15 minutes where I have a giant fight.
Yeah. It felt like a lot more video gamey to me, and that might just be because you're on these floating islands that are sort of self-contained arenas that feel like levels or rooms that you need to go into instead of this, I guess maybe the illusion that Rapture could cast, where even though you're moving through rooms and arenas, it feels natural, like you're in the bottom of the fucking ocean, and
If you had to now sit down and explain the Bioshock Infinite plot with no recourse to the internet, how good a job do you think you would do?
Oh God, you wake up.
Was there something with a finger and infinite realities? Didn't someone lose a finger?
Yeah, she's missing a finger.
There you go.
Because of a portal. I don't know.
A portal closed on her finger.
Gets shut off. Yeah.
Oh, I guess. Sorry if we're spoiling.
And there's the twins.
Oh, sorry.
The time
those
twins.
are charming. They're funny. There's some comic relief, I suppose.
Yeah.
Even though it's timey-wimey nonsense. But Bioshock. I figured we'd just bring it up and talk about the collection and our favorites. But we're kind of running out of time here. I didn't realize we'd be talking so much.
We can cut the Hearthstone pretty short. I don't know what to say.
Well, I do want to talk about. So let's move on to Hearthstone now. Is that what's up next? I think that's what's up next. Yes. Hearthstone. So I've been seeing some stories online, and I'm sort of taking those stories I've seen, and I've looked over to my right and seen you not playing Hearthstone as often, and wondered if there's a correlation here. And the three things I want to bring up are: one, we had a story go up. What's it called? That's not it. What's wrong with competitive Hearthstone? Which seems to indicate that it's a huge problem right now. The arena mode has been sort of, I don't want to say gutted, but at least changed significantly.
I mean, it's not been gutted. It's been rebalanced.
It's been rebalanced. Okay.
Yeah, they took the decision, which I think was interesting. People had been grousing quite a bit since the new set come out that the balance had been a little bit overlooked in terms of when you make an arena deck, you pick based on rarity, and they'd made some very powerful cards too common, and they'd also made some dumpster cards. This priest one, you remember us talking about priest previously.
So
anyway, so they've rebalanced arena. There's been some stuff recently where like Navi dumped their Hearthstone team, and they had like the world champion on it, and Amaz, who was a very popular streamer who'd set up his own organisation which ran some tournaments and stuff, had basically over time shed all its players, and he's exited that now. So the competitive scene anyway is in this kind of like slight fug where a lot of the pros who play it seem unhappy, and I think the reason for that is the problem is the game itself, right, is, as everyone knows, heavily RNG based. I'm a great advocate for saying to play it to a high standard you have to think very hard. People can be laughing to say this, but like mentally I think it's a hard game to play optimally. Like it's really difficult, but the RNG means that even if you are playing pretty much optimally, there's a good chance you won't still win tournaments and you'll get knocked out. So if you're trying to make a living from tournaments, it's almost a non-starter. Like, and I think the teams have gradually realised that, and we've seen viewership dwindle for like the big Blizzard organised events, largely because, in my opinion anyway, and I think I've got an interview going up this afternoon with Kriparian, who's one of the big streamers, where he says a lot of this stuff. The people who people like watching on stream, so guys like Brian Kibler and Savitz, who are very popular personalities and also great players, they don't bother playing in tournaments because why would they? They'll make much more money from streaming because they'll get like 10, 15,000 viewers. So I think like and we can cut this short, absolutely. Like, but the game has like something of an existential crisis insofar as like people like watching it, but it doesn't quite work as a competitive thing because the entertainment is in seeing guys have funny stuff happen to them and kind of play each other. Whereas watching two unknowns play the same decks that you've seen a zillion times, because the meta's quite. I know you love talking about the meta. The meta's quite. It tends to kind of lock up quite quickly, in my opinion now.
So. What's
to be done?
Yeah, what's to be done? Like, what does Hearthstone look like going forward in terms of like on the popular scene? Is it just going to be this popular streaming game purely for just like entertainment? You know, like a sideshow? Haha, let's watch some streamers play and enjoy their personalities and sort of the playfulness of this card game, or is there a future in a genuinely competitive version of Hearthstone?
I think long term it will be fine. I think maybe I've long advocated that Blizzard needs to be more like interventionist when it comes to balance, and needs to they created a standard format so that sets would rotate out like every 2 years or whatever. That's too slow in my opinion for cards that are problematic, and they've both still got some I think problematic cards in the original vanilla set which are never going to rotate out, and then there's cards which have come in since, like Tuskar Totemic and that, which are big, which is the competitive piece. The guy, he's a psychologist. It's a really interesting piece if you are interested in balance and stuff like that. He talked about like how cards generate value, and the problem is having like big variance on cards, so that if the outcome can like potentially swing the entire game, and it's like a fairly cheap. I feel like the noise is getting even louder in my ears. He talked about if you had like more restricted ranges of variance on cards, it would be much easier for like high skill players to prove that they were good at the game, because they wouldn't be getting blown out by like weird things happening quite so much. Anyway, I don't know. Like I think the game is in a bit of a tough spot at the moment, and I'm not sure what Blizzard would do about it. But when I say tough spot, you're still talking about something which like millions of people play and enjoy, and it's making Blizzard money like hand over fist as fast as you can.
It's the same case as when people say, "Oh wow, this is losing players and dying," but it's just not the case.
There's a good point he makes in the interview I'm going to put up this afternoon is he talks about Kriparian. He talks about he's played like a bunch of other card games. I mean, he's often sponsored to do so, but he's played like Faria, Duelist. I was talking about Elder Scrolls Legends. There's a few others out there that are they're really interesting, and he says like each of those games when he plays them have at least one mechanic that if you added it to Hearthstone would make Hearthstone a better game, that they are better. So you could say like the rune system in Legends or the lane system might be things would improve Hearthstone or make it more interesting. But what those games don't have, like Blizzard's polish, Blizzard's ability to generate community, Blizzard's marketing budget, like so. I think Hearthstone will be fine long term, but I think at the moment it definitely feels like it's facing more question marks than it's had for a long time.
Well, I'm at least excited to see that they're going to have to address it, and that means they'll have to take action, which means changes are coming. Well, yeah, maybe they just don't, and it keeps going. I know they recently put out a welcome pack. One more question I have for you is the welcome pack worth it for someone, in your eyes, trying to get into the game, or is it just sort of a booster for folks who are already established? Is it going to help
I think
people?
it's fine for both. Like, if nothing else, it's like, so the welcome pack is you get 10... It's not actually... They've not put it live yet. They said they were going to put it live today, but they had to delay it. It's 10... You get 10 classic packs, so it's definitely geared for newcomers.
Right.
But you also get, as part of that, like a guaranteed legendary class card. And even if you get stuff you don't want, you can dust that. So the cost is $5, and I think just buying like 2 packs is normally like $2 or something like that, or maybe it's $2 for 1 pack. I can't remember, but the cost per card per dust ratio is like insanely good. So I'll probably buy it just to get more dust, so that I've got it for crafting stuff when the next expansion comes out or whatever. If you do have any interest in it at all, I would definitely pick that up.
All right, sweet.
Which you of course don't. So.
I was just curious. I'm always curious. Hearthstone is it's impossible to avoid in this office. Chris, any insight into what do you think about Hearthstone? What's up with that?
Yeah, I don't know.
You can edit my 3,000-word interview this afternoon, Chris. And
Damn it.
Then you'll be punished for your flippancy.
Actually, it's one of those games that it's almost in a way like Eve to me. Like, I actually enjoy reading about Hearthstone. I enjoy looking at the articles. It's just not like Eve. It's like, I'm probably never going to play this, but I still enjoy reading about it. It's just one of those games for me, I think.
Yeah, I'm interested in the fringes of the culture and just seeing how, mainly because
it's not the fringe. It's got about 9 million players.
No, I mean, like I like living on the edge of that and at least absorbing a little of the energy and fun. And
that was why I asked about raiding in Warcraft earlier, because we were talking this morning about raids generally. I love reading about MMO raids, but I've only raided in Destiny, which is a console shooter, but like I don't play MMOs very much. But I'll read about them. Like we had a really good piece by a writer called Luke Winkeygop, who wrote about the first time Cthulhu was beaten in WoW, and it was an encounter that was I think for a while like literally impossible to beat because it was almost bugged. And just hearing some of the anecdotes from the people who were playing back then, I find that stuff fascinating. Yeah,
and we also did a couple weeks back like the craziest raid bosses of all MMOs, some piece like that, and just reading about some of that stuff, it's bonkers what I guess how much energy and time and teamwork people are willing to put into some of this stuff, just trying to crack them. So always fascinated by that stuff. Let's move on to an interesting topic, Steam reviews. Do you guys when you're looking at games online, besides using PC Gamer as your number one source for video gaming criticism and entertainment, how else do you get your I guess, are you looking at Steam reviews as a reliable source of, or a place to tell if a game is worth it or not? Is it a metric that means anything to you?
I wouldn't say I use it as like a metric to determine whether or not I buy something, because I guess like we're quite close to. I mean, we tend to get pre-release copies of a lot of stuff, and we're obviously we work all around us with people who play stuff early, so you speak to like your peers and that, and I probably do look like beyond like a certain few key sites. I'll look at like Metacritic and stuff. With Steam reviews, what I find more interesting is like when their representation of like audience reaction to something. Like you only have to see like with something like No Man's Sky recently, like how the Steam reviews can become like a kind of a
statement,
or like a lightning rod for like a particular type of reaction or whatever. But where I will use them is if a game's like pretty obscure. Like when we were going through testing like VR stuff, when we first got the Rift at home, I'd look at the Steam reviews then, because you were looking at stuff that you hadn't even heard of. It was just a name, and you'd see what people were saying about it. So yes and no is the answer. So I mean, like no more than I would use like Amazon reviews, say, if I was buying a kettle. Right,
just because kind of a quick crowd.
Out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use them a lot too for early access games because you don't see a lot of early access reviews on sites, so it's a good place to go. Like, well, what shape is this game in? What's working? What's not working? And there's usually, I know in reviews, on Steam, pro and con lists are pretty frequent. A lot of reviews are like, here are the pros, here are the cons, and it's nice to just have a list like that. So that's what I use them for most of the time. Yeah.
Do you ever leave any Steam reviews?
I don't think I've ever done a Steam review. No.
I think when they were brand new, I did it because there was some achievement you could get, like when I was sort of into.
I'm going to find your original Steam review.
I forgot. It's been so long. Yeah, please no. I look back at reviews I wrote a year ago here, and I'm like, ooh, okay. Well, I bring this up because Steam, Valve, they recently made some big changes, sweeping changes to their user reviews policy in that you can no longer leave a review if you've redeemed your game through a key.
Well, I think you can write a review, but it doesn't factor
into
the score. Is that
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me. So you can write a review, but those are filtered out from the final score, the percentage that shows up on the game. You can still read those. They don't want to just delete every review that's ever been written or keep people from chiming in. But a lot of people just quickly glance at the number and move on. And the justification for this is that because developers can generate their own keys, that the potential exists for them to just give those out to people who are guaranteeing a positive review, and they can in that way influence their score. So by eliminating that, maybe it'll shift some scores in some way.
I mean, was there a sense that there was like widespread abuse going on there?
I didn't get that idea. But then again, I'm not behind the scene developing this stuff. Maybe they're just super discreet and quiet about it.
And the logic was that if something had a high score, it would push it up charts. And
yeah. I mean, just like generally, catching the eye of more people, and I'm sure people look at databases where they sort by score, and just look based on that. So we ran a piece a couple days ago, asking developers what they thought about it. But before we do that, I kind of want to know what you guys think about the system or the changes they made themselves. Like, is this a good move? Is it a bad move? What's going on?
To me, it felt like maybe a bit of an overreaction. It sounded like, there might have been a problem where some developers are trying to goose their score up by giving out codes in exchange for positive reviews, and that's something that does sound like an issue. It kind of feels like they, I don't know, maybe overreacted by this giant sweeping change that's going to affect, I think, just about every game out there, just to deal with this problem. It's hard to say how big this problem really was. You're looking at an issue for people who get keys through Kickstarters, for people who buy through bundles, that their reviews, which are, I would guess, mostly perfectly legitimate, aren't factored into a score. Which sounds like a problem, especially for smaller developers who probably get as many reviews through a Kickstarter or Humble as they do through someone buying through Steam. So it sounds like, I think the Steam review system, as it was already kind of crummy. I'm not a big fan of the thumbs up, thumbs down version of rating games. People can review games without having only played a few minutes of them. You do see times when there's these pile-ons because maybe a developer said something and people got angry, and so they all gave a negative review. It wasn't a great system in any respect. It seems like now I would say it's worse than it was, at least in some ways. So
you mentioned, James, when we were talking about it earlier, whether there could be something that displayed how much you had played the game, because I don't think you could set a limit of you can only review this game if you've played it for 2 hours, because who would decide that?
Well,
it would vary from game to game so much.
The reviews do say how long you've played them, but I guess what I meant was maybe there's a gate, you can set by the developer. I don't know, but like it certainly is a problem. It's part of the issue, right?
If you were a developer looking to glitch the system, you would just set it at 0. Though, right?
Yeah, you want like as many people saying nice things saying things about your game as possible, I think. But you bring up a good point, Chris, is that a lot of legitimate like a lot of games are given out and sold through keys, like legitimately. Probably significantly more than any the percentage of those that are given out to be made into positive reviews. And in chat, Tom brought up this morning that a game like Fantastic Contraption for the HTC Vive, it comes bundled with the HTC Vive. Most people are probably getting that through just the code that comes with the Vive, and so almost all of their reviews are just gone now, or not gone, excuse me, but no longer factor in.
If you could show like what percentage of times the game had been refunded, that'd be interesting.
That would be an interesting metric. That'd be horrifying.
Be bad news.
That'd be an interesting new method for people to dogpile on. I don't know. Yeah. So it's a continuing problem. I think personally on my end, I just think like Chris mentioned, the whole system itself is sort of just kind of chunky and bad. It's just
probably no more so than like Yelp's restaurant reviews, where you don't even have had to have been to the restaurant. Like I think almost anything like this is going to be open to abuse in some way, especially like given the nature of the way people behave on the internet. People are always going to use it for like axe grinding and score settling, which is just like
the other thing is that. Once again, here's Steam going, hey, guess what? We just changed something without any warning, without maybe, I don't know, talking. I mean, I imagine it would be hard to get a consensus with every developer who has a game on Steam and going, hey, we're going to change things. What do the thousands of you think? Like, how would you actually coordinate something? But I think it doesn't sound like anyone got any kind of warning. Steam just came to a decision, or Valve came to a decision, and it's like this sort of paid mod thing where it's like, hey, here's an idea. We'll just throw it out there and see what happens. And everyone's like, what? Okay. It's once again, it seems like, I don't know, they had a meeting and decided this, and everyone's kind of taken by surprise, which they keep doing.
I don't know. It's only a sustainable method for Valve because they're Valve, but it doesn't seem to be working out for them in terms of all of like the features they launch and changes they make to Steam. I mean, when I look at Steam in general, and maybe I'm moving away from the topic here, but when I think about Steam in general and all the updates that have come to it, I think of things that I never really stuck with me or people have had problems with from the get-go, and that's like Greenlight, which, what even is Greenlight now? The marketplace seems all right, but stuff like the trading cards and achievements and the review system.
I thought you loved the trading cards. You were the trading card.
I only like the trading cards. You know why I like trading cards? Because I made bank on trading cards.
How much did you make in total?
I'm not even done yet. I just took a break. I bought a $60 game just flipping trading cards. Telling you what. So.
What was the game?
I think I got XCOM 2 with it, or something like that. I was curious. It was an experiment, and it worked out. So hey, if you need some tips, get at you, boy. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about just their philosophy in general? As like there's such a. I think they need to be more responsible, seeing that they're like by far like the most dominant platform for the PC, and it's like if you want to succeed in general, you got to have your game on Steam if you're an indie developer. Not always the case for sure, but. And yet they have all this power and don't seem to at least consult or democratize the process at all. Like, what are they going to do? What are we going to do? This is more of like a rhetorical existential question, I suppose.
I mean, whatever they're doing seems to be working out quite well for them.
For them?
Yeah.
Yeah. New World Order.
And I suppose, I mean, so many companies when they hit that sort of size, if you make comparisons with, say, like, you can compare them to someone like Apple or to, like, in development terms, like a Rockstar, companies which operate almost in complete secrecy but are known for, like, generally, like, high quality. Their process is not to answer to third parties or even the audience. It's to do pretty much whatever they want, change stuff if it doesn't work out to their satisfaction, and go on. So I think, like, anyone hoping or expecting Valve to start behaving differently is going to be in for a pretty long wait.
Yeah, they don't have to.
No.
They don't. They can afford to not.
I mean, they don't even like effectively speak publicly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you'll get more of this. There'll be like tweaks will be made, changes will happen. Some of it will be okay, and some of it will be annoying.
Chris, if you were in charge of Steam, what would Steam look like? What kind of cool new feature would you implement?
Just like delete all the survival games, like immediately.
Delete.
Yeah.
That's a serious question.
What would I change? I would have the you know how when you open Steam on your desktop you have your little game library,
Yeah.
and then when you open your friends list, you have like a friends list.
Yes.
I would combine them so I don't have to have two things open.
Baffling. Absolutely baffling.
I don't want two. I mean, that's still how it works, right?
Bold.
Yeah, it opens another little friend
Wait,
window.
Whoop.
is that a phone ringing? Is that Gabe?
Ring, ring, ring. We got it.
Mr. Livingston, phone ring. It's like the end of like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Up to the elevator.
Yeah, you just go, it's all yours, Chris. It's all yours. You were the one.
I don't want two things on my desktop when I can have one.
Oh my god.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm with you. There's some weird, like, there's some stuff. If you did the Wayback Machine, this is maybe something we can do is comparing Steam from 1994. It didn't exist then, but bear with me, to Steam today, and looking at the features that are literally the same.
Didn't Wes do a piece that was like the different
Through the years,
looks and feel?
Someone, I think, we had a Matt Sayre. Someone did it. But yeah, there's some weird legacy stuff in Steam, and it's weird. It's a chunky product. I'll just say that. Yeah. Anyway, so we'll see how this review stuff shakes out. I'm of the opinion that it's a little bit for the worse, and it's just clumsier than it was before. But we'll see. It's Valve with Steam. We'll see. So I left a big ass chunk here for Twitch Q&A. So this is the where Tom typically gives a spiel about where to subscribe. And I'm spacing where we exist. YouTube.com/PCGamer. That's one. So if you want to watch our show on YouTube after the fact, go there, subscribe.
Twitter's at PC Gamer if you want to speak to us.
Twitter is at PC Gamer if you want to tweet at us. Facebook, just look up PC Gamer, or is it /P? I don't know, Facebook URLs.
Yeah, you either get us or one of the South American sites.
Yeah, imitators.
Yeah, good luck.
There's also good old-fashioned PCGamer.com. We also got our own handles down in the bar below us if you're that desperate to hear more from us. So yeah, let's see some questions. We'll answer subscriber questions first, but if we get down to it, we will definitely.
I'm willing to answer non-subscriber
He's
questions.
willing. He's willing to talk down.
I don't like Tom's apartheid.
Plebe- yeah. So let's see him. Get those questions rolling in. Let's see here. Okay, we got Chris86. What do you ask, Chris? Can we expect more VR game reviews from PC Gamer? Damaged Core is pretty fun. IMO.
I'll field that.
Yeah, go for it. He's a subscriber.
Yeah, we talked about that really recently. How because we went through like an initial burst of reviewing like not most of, but certainly like many of the bigger VR releases. Yeah. And I think if we're being like super candid about it, the interest in it was kind of like not as strong as we would have hoped.
No.
Because I think both the Rift and the Vive are expensive bits of kit, so they don't have like a big install base straight away. But I think we want to get back to doing more of it when the games are right. So maybe that's a good one to start with. Wes Antoine, who Wes has written a lot about VR for us in the past, reviewed both machines, and Antoine, who runs the hardware channel, are both going down to an Oculus event soon, where there's going to, I think, be some more announcements. It's kind of up to you guys, really. Like, if the demand is there, we'll do it, of course. And I think it's a technology we're interested in. I don't think it's going to go away. I don't think it's going to be the next 3D TV or anything like that. But it'll be interesting to see how like PlayStation VR changes the landscape and how much kind of interest it generates around the whole subject. So the answer is like yes.
We'll do more.
Yes, couldn't I?
I think the next game we'll probably cover is actually coming out this month for free. I'll post a link in chat. It's from Squanch Tendo, which is made up of Justin Roiland, who's like the voice of Rick and Morty, one of the co-creators. Tanya Watson, who used to work for Epic Games and helped produce Gears of War and so on. They're putting out this bonkers game called Accounting. I got to play it at PAX, and It's coming out for free. They're working in collaboration with Crows, which is made up of ex Stanley Parable.
It's coming out for free?
Yeah.
Why?
They're putting it out as like a taste tester, is what they say. Crows did the same thing with their first game, Dr. Langsakov and blah blah something. So definitely want to check out. We'll be covering that for you VR people out there. Cool. So yeah, more VR to come. Just we're kind of waiting on the industry.
Do you think Squanch Tendo will be sued by Nintendo?
I keep wondering, right? Yeah. Is it parody if you're like a legit game company?
What does the word squanch mean?
It's nothing. It's just a nonsense word that I think it's from Rick and Morty too. Like I don't know. It's been a while. It's just funny. Isn't it funny? You think it's funny?
It's kind of funny.
All right.
I've heard funnier.
It's not the funniest word.
I like the idea of a game about accounting.
It's a lot more than accounting is what I'll say. It's really, really fucked up. More questions. Keep them coming in. Here we have one. This font is so tiny. I don't know how Marx does it. One sec.
He's got young eyes.
And we got Verandil, if I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry, says, I was a massive fan of Settlers 2 back in the day, so when I saw it cheap, I tried Settlers 7. What a horror show. Same was true of recent entries in the Might and Magic and Heroes franchises. Wondering if you guys have any thoughts on why this sort of thing happens when the likes of Civ and GTA stay strong. So why do franchises sometimes go downhill?
Go bad?
Yeah. Leave it out of the fridge too long. I don't know.
I mean, I've written about games for a long time, but I've never worked a day in my life in game development. It's one of those things where they're probably studios shed talent. When a franchise lasts that long, I know people. Do you remember when Microsoft bought Rare, and there was that sense of well, they're the guys who made Perfect Dark and all that sort of thing, but and GoldenEye, but almost everyone had left who'd made GoldenEye. So I think internal churn is probably a big reason. Games just lose their way as well. Going back to that interview I was talking about earlier, we were talking about whether Hearthstone would ever be overtaken by any of these other challenges, and he was saying in his opinion, on a long enough timeline, a game developer will almost always either screw up its own game, or other games in the genre will kind of be more lean and kind of guerrilla-ish and find ways to kind of surpass what the dominant game has. So maybe that's it. Complacency sets in, people get used to making the same thing. There's always the pressure as well of having to churn games out on a yearly cycle or a biannual cycle, and I think that's that has a pretty chilling effect on innovation. It's hard to. You saw it with Assassins this year, right? They've finally taken a year off because they were just
be good for them, I hope.
Without being pardon my French, they were sort of effectively shitting a new one out each year, right? And they had 3 different studios in rotation working on it, and that's just I think that's really not conducive to reinventing the wheel and surprising players. Like you guys said, with Bioshock, the first one comes out, it's incredible. How do you bottle that lightning again, or do you just make something that's kind of similar?
I don't know. It's tough.
Franchise fatigue.
Do you either of you have a franchise that comes to mind? I hate saying the word franchise. Franchise series that comes to mind that you think went down the hill or disappointed you in the long term?
Oh, tons. Yeah.
Tons.
Well, I mean, look at SimCity, I think, which is one of the most, celebrated games and one of the greatest games, and how that kind of fell apart there, at least in some respects. And that didn't feel like, it didn't feel like they were trying to reinvent the wheel. It didn't feel like they were trying to give you more of the same. It just felt like, I don't know, they reached for the wrong things and I don't know, took it in a direction that I don't think people really were interested in. With the online stuff, with the limiting the player space, it felt like, I don't know, that just felt like a kind of going off the rails type of situation.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, when it comes down to it, when you're trying to make a game that will appeal to a sequel that will appeal to the players of the previous games, what do you think? Am I going to do more of the same? How far do I stray from the path? And you see it. You see it go, off the rails sometimes. You see it just play it safe. And I mean, one example is Gears of War. Right now, I've played all the Gears of War games. And I played 4 a brief demo at PAX, and it felt surprisingly familiar. That's maybe one example that sticks too close to.
In a good way or not?
If you like Gears of War, that's the thing. It's
still more Gears.
Yeah. I'm well, this is exactly the same game It's not exactly the same game. That's reductive. But it's this is the route they chose because they don't want to alienate their players.
I think it depends on the series as well. Like if you're talking about something like a Metal Gear, you don't want a new Metal Gear come out and it not have like new ideas and new stuff and new systems.
Yeah.
But if you're playing like people who are playing a Call of Duty each year, I think are pretty much locked into like a formula of like what they want from both the multiplayer and the single player, and they probably just want it to be a bit flashier and bang it. And that's not to criticise. For a period, I loved Call of Duty games and look forward to the new ones. But I think we'll see with the new. What's the new one called this year? Infinite
Warfare.
Yeah, I was getting confused because of Bioshock Infinite.
What do you do after Infinite Warfare?
Restricted warfare.
Let's go.
Yeah. Limited warfare.
You wheel it back a bit. Yeah. Okay.
Zero warfare, maybe.
Zero warfare. Imagine that. I'd be down with that.
Everyone's gone to the rapture.
So yeah, it's a tough call. We never really know unless unless you're the developer. It's hard to know why. But thanks for the question. Your Twitch names are crazy. I'm not going to say that one, but thank you for the question. What was the biggest scam of a game released on PC? Mine for console was the Master Chief Collection. They knowingly released a completely broken multiplayer, lied about it, then ignored the community, patching the game to sell. Well, okay, so let's like reel it back a bit. That's maybe you're angry, and that's fair. But
but Master Chief Collection, I remember
it was pretty bad.
You could queue into a game. We'd have like
it was really bad.
You'd have like 10 guys on one team and like 8 on the other or something, or whatever it was. The numbers wouldn't even like line up. It was pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. So I don't mean to like undermine your opinion or your thoughts there, your feelings, but to the question at hand, instead of calling a game a scam release, let's say we've talked about this. Most botched, just messed up launch that we can recall. Can you guys think of one?
I mean, SimCity was bad because you just couldn't even play it. Like you couldn't get into it, as I remember. Like I was pretty upset with that.
SimCity, oh my god, that's pretty bad. What was the on PC? Arkham Knight. Do you guys remember Arkham Knight?
Hard to argue with one where they actually pulled it because it was so. And then months. I mean, how many months went by? 6 or 8 months before they even got it back.
And it still wasn't quite right.
No, it wasn't.
I think it's relatively playable now, but maybe that's something to do is revisit that game and see how it's doing on the average system. I'm
gonna say probably still badly.
Probably not great. Other games that come to mind, I don't think we've had anything of the Master Chief Collection like scale on PC in a while beyond Arkham Knight, but I don't know. I try to bury all those terrible memories.
The trauma.
The trauma. All right, next question. Let's go down to the subscriber here. Oh, that's not a question. Colin asks, is SimCity okay these days? I haven't heard anything about it for years. I don't know. Have you guys popped into it recently?
I never even played it.
Oh, no? That seems like a Chris game.
I wanted to. I think, I don't know. I'm not even sure. Was I full-time? I wasn't full-time here when it came out, and I was in the freelancer mode of not ever buying a game unless I knew I was going to get paid to write about it. So I never bought it. And then by the time I got here, we had Skylines, which I've played a lot of. I don't know what the current status of SimCity is, actually. I mean, should probably check that out.
I wonder if they're still putting out like updates and stuff.
We should look.
Yeah.
We should investigate a feature back to the SimCity. So we don't know. Maybe we'll look, though. Thanks for the question. We got another one up here I missed. Chris, again, same Chris, asks, what's your take on emulation? I was positively surprised by the dolphin coverage on your site.
Surprised that we'd done it?
Yeah.
I think like it's one of those things where like Wes who's our features editor is like really into it.
Yeah.
And it's something where we have to like sometimes be pretty careful what we say because of like some of the pieces have to go through our legal department and stuff because we don't obviously want to be seen to encouraging anything that's illegal.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the things that makes PC gaming special. The fact that like, there's a risk otherwise some of these games get like lost. I think it serves a pretty valuable archival purpose as well.
Yeah, same boat. I mean,
Personally, I don't care to play old games. I don't give a shit. Like I almost which is
old hat.
I'll probably never go back and play. I mean, I played which is a year.
Witcher's
old,
a piece of shit.
But that's as far
it's
back
2016.
as I'll go. So even with Bioshock, I'll probably like as much as we just talked about it and it was fun. I probably won't go back and play them.
Oh my god!
There's always new stuff.
I only use it to play really, really old games.
Way back when.
I was playing some Apple II games on an emulator like Choplifter and Captain Goodnight, and these games where I just wanted to go back and just have a little nostalgia hit from my very first computer game. So
yeah, that I can agree with. Like I would go back. There's a game I keep thinking about. I used to play with a friend of mine when we were really young, which was a game called Exile on the BBC Micro. You guys heard of it?
Nope.
It's basically like the No Man's Sky of its time. You're like, except without triggering the big rage feedback. But yeah, you're dumped on a planet. It had like realistic physics. It was kind of like almost like view-wise, it was side scroller, but like for the time, like amazing graphics. That you would you could kind of thrust around and like do these puzzles, and you were trying to escape the planet or find out what had gone on. And my friend and I, we could like barely get past. Does anyone in chat remember Exile? They're probably all too young.
We'll see. Probably no one.
Anyway, like my friend and I would play it together. Like you would then, like the two of us, like sort of sharing the keyboard and stuff. And we didn't get past basically like the first puzzle, but we would be in it for hours because we were like morons, like these young morons, just didn't understand what to do. And I could see a reason to go back and just for a hit of nostalgia. Nostalgia always makes me really melancholy though, so maybe not too
Nostalgia
much.
implies some kind of unattainable loss. You know, it's real tough stuff. So I like emulation for archival purposes. It's totally valuable, and we want to help you guys. You know, keep the archive going.
We'll always write about it as much as we're legally allowed to.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for the question. We got time for maybe a couple more here. Gambotron says, Gears of War PAX? I'm assuming that means you want to know what Gears of War looked like at PAX. And I'm going to focus on what's important to you guys. And the good thing is it ran beautifully on PC. I played Horde mode.
Were they showing it in 4K?
Yeah, I played Horde mode in 4K on a PC at 60 frames a second. I don't know the specs of the PC. Probably pretty beefy. Yeah. But, I mean, within reason. It wasn't a huge box or anything.
I don't know if this is a giant secret. I apologise to Microsoft if it is, but...
Uh-oh.
Isn't Tom saying it's got, like... Can I say this?
Let's not. Okay. Just in case.
Well, I think we're going to have
teaser.
I think we're going to have some fun benchmarking when it comes out.
Yeah,
so we're going to definitely send it to our chief benchmarker, Jared, and he's going to, I think, put it through its paces.
Yeah.
So that should be good.
That's where Tom is. Tom's up in Canada looking at Gears of War, so we'll have more on that later.
Tom fled the country.
Fled the country for his stop and pop cover system. So yeah, it played beautifully, ran beautifully. I played the campaign as well, like a brief 10-minute demo, and it looks great. There's a couple new weapons I got to see.
Is it more bro-ish, less bro-ish, or the same bro-ish?
It's hard to say. It feels like they reeled back on that a bit, but everyone is still like the big chunky dudes, you know, and they're all like yelling. They got voices like this. Take cover, Locust, you know, and so I don't know. We'll see. Like the campaign, I can't imagine will be. I don't have high hopes for it being like this a touching story, but it could.
I really liked Gears 1 back in the day.
Oh, I love all the Gears of War games. I played all but Judgment, and they're really fun co-op games to play with buddies. And they like. There's a reason that cover shooters became popular after Gears of War came out because it did a good job, and it feels exactly like those games.
We should two-player it.
I'm down.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Cool.
So good news, Gears of War PC looks great. Plays like Gears of War. I played with mouse and keyboard, I forgot to say, and it feels perfect. So
when's it out?
Early October, 13th, something like that. So
okay, cool.
Soon, coming out soon. What else do we have? We got time for like maybe one or two more. Here we go. Veranadil. I think I said your name like 3 different ways so far. Was Steam recently releasing a bunch of old games GOG style? Is that a good thing or bad thing for gaming? Is that stuff best left for GOG? Good old games, CD Projekt's storefront. What do you guys think? Is releasing old games on Steam good or bad? or should GOG be in charge of that?
I think it's fine as long as people are aware that GOG is, an option to buy without DRM. And I think the more outlets releasing more games, I think is probably a net win.
Yeah, you don't want to. I mean, the worry would be like if Steam gets so good at like everything that it's already tough. I think for other people to compete. So I think like Chris says, like plurality of outlets is good.
Yeah, I'm totally into that. The more places you can buy games, the more choices you have as a consumer, the better. The better, if you ask me. I'm looking for that Gears footage. I'm going to post in chat just so you guys can see for yourself. By the way, check out our PAX coverage. We have like almost 40 videos up from just a weekend. So one final question I think that's fitting for this time of year is, he posted it. Whoops. Meprim8 asks, any particular games you guys are really looking forward to? There's a lot coming out this fall. What are you looking forward to?
When is Dishonored 2 out?
Also October.
Dishonored 2.
Yeah, same for me. Although, watching this footage, I'm like, man, I'm not interested in playing as Corvo, like, at all.
Yeah.
Like, zero. I'm like...
You could be the Lady Assassin, though.
Yeah, I know. But I just thought, like, when I think about Dishonored, how much I enjoyed it...
Why are you down on Corvo now?
I don't know. I did that already. Like, I don't want his powers. I don't care about his stupid mask. And, I'm very much into... I think what I actually wanted was, like, I'm glad it's taking place in another part of the world. I was hoping for no attachment character-wise to the first game. I just wanted to be in a new world with new people. I think this is fine. Like, I'm happy to play as Emily. I don't know. I was kind of surprised to realize, like, I don't really care about Corvo. Maybe I didn't care about him in the first game. I just enjoyed.
That's what I want from Stranger Things Season 2. New characters in a place, but that's not what you're going to get.
Welcome to the PC Gamer TV show podcast spinoff about Stranger Things.
I'm not afraid.
No, it's fine. Dishonored 2, I had the same thought, Chris, is Emily's abilities also seem a bit more, how do I say it, like player friendly in that like they seem you can experiment and do some pretty, or at least like imply you can do some pretty creative stuff.
What's her main difference?
Well, I've told her dash is she remains visible, I believe, right? I can't remember exactly what the difference is, but one of her abilities really grabbed my attention was, I forget what it's called, but she can mark several different guards, and whatever action she performs to one of them will happen to all of them. Huh. So if she slits the throat of the guard, all of them die, and if maybe, I don't know how far this goes. That's what I'm curious. It's like if you throw something at them, maybe like
they will get hit by it.
They will all feel that. I don't know. Like, I'm just curious to see what exactly I can do with that, because that sounds bonkers.
I think it's going to be great. Like the first game, I know what Chris means about Corvo. Like, it's weird how I feel the same way. I'd much rather play a new character, but you forget how good that first game was, and they've had like, it feels like enough time on this one. They haven't had to like bang it out for next year. So they're such a talented studio that
I have faith.
Think it's going to be great.
I have faith. Other than that, I don't really know. That's kind of what's on my radar right now.
Titanfall 2, I'd still say.
Titanfall 2, absolutely. Battlefield,
first-person stuff, isn't
Gears of War. There's just a lot coming out. Civ 6. It's hard to really say one that I'm excited about. If anything, I'm just like nervous for covering it all. So anyway, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on the PC Gamer Show. Tom will be back. Let him out of my basement tonight, if he's good, and he'll be back to do a better hosting job, I'm sure. But thanks for entertaining us while we were here. Remember, if you're, what does he say here? If you're on iTunes, you can subscribe. If you're on,
please subscribe.
I blew it. Just subscribe, go to our website, click on our articles. Thank you. Anyway, bye guys.